right, today what we're going to do is we're going to go back over the distributive property. We've talked about it once before, but now we're going to actually put it into practice and make sure that we are comfortable using it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to get into it, go through it, and yeah. So the distributive property is just when you have parentheses around an expression and you can't do anything with that expression inside those parentheses, but you're still trying to multiply this number times everything inside there. So you're going to take and multiply this times each term so that you can actually use what's inside there later on in a bigger expression. So all you got to do is take and multiply this times each term in there. Now a term is separated by addition and subtraction. So that's what we're doing. We're going to multiply 2 times x and 2 times 5. Well, in front of this x right here, if there's nothing there, there's no coefficient there, it's always 1. So I'm going to put a 1 right there. Okay? So what I'm doing is really multiplying 2 times this 1. So I've got this 2x plus, and then, okay, a lot of people want to stop right there and then they bring down this 5. So that's the common mistake that you have with this. You just take and multiply it times this first one, and then you bring down that other 5. Don't do that. Okay? This is getting multiplied times everything inside there. All right? So I get 2x, and then I got 2 times 5, which gets me 10. Okay? Then that's the way that that works. Okay? So you have to multiply this times everything inside of here, all the terms. That's, if you don't do that, you've only done part of the distributive property. Okay? So pay attention to what's going on there. All right. So we're going to do a whole bunch of these different problems. We're going to give you different looks at it, so that you see how all these different problems work. All right. So here I've got another problem. Same type of problem, really. It doesn't really change. This is just rearranged a little bit. On top of that, I have a -7. That negative goes with that 7. So if I multiply everything inside here with that negative by that 7, that negative is going with it. All right? So as I do this, I'm looking at this problem, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this subtraction right here to addition. All right? When I do that, remember, 2 marks, click, click. Change that, change that. Okay? So if I change this from subtraction to addition, I got to change whatever the sign is of this behind it. All right? That's all that's happened. Now, I'm going to take, and not just the 7, but the -7, the sign goes with it. So I'm going to take all of this, and I'm going to multiply it by each term inside of those parentheses. Right here we have 2 terms. Other expressions may have 3, may have 4 terms. It doesn't matter. However many terms are inside of those parentheses, you're multiplying this times it. Okay? Because what's really supposed to happen is you're supposed to do everything inside those parentheses first. Combine it all down. Okay? Well, in here we can't combine those down because they're not like terms, which I'll get into here in a minute. So in order to get past this, having to do this first, we're able to multiply this times everything inside there. So -7 times -2, -7 times -9x. Now remember, a negative times a negative gets me a positive. So -7 times -2 gets me a positive 14. Know your sign rules. Those are super important. Gets me a positive 14 plus, because I made that addition now, so plus -7 times -9x. So 7 times 9, 63. X, negative times a negative, gets me a positive. That's all there is to this, guys. A lot of us forget to do the second one. Be careful with that. All right? Pay attention to what you're doing. Watch where you're messing up and fix it. Every one of us can do this. Okay. Now, that was just with a regular number. Now we start to have a variable that we're going to have to distribute through. All right, so one, we got to know our exponent rules because it's going to come up in this. The other is that we have to understand how you multiply by a variable. I mean, it's the same thing, right? We're going to take this, we're going to multiply it here and here, but before I do that, I'm looking. Oh, I want to change that right here. Click, click. that's what I want to do. I want to go ahead and change that. Then I'll deal with it at the end afterwards, okay? So x times 2, well, in front of this is a 1, so 1x times 2 gets me 2x. So far, so good. That's the easy part. Now, take this and multiply it times this. I brought that down, plus. So now I'm going to multiply this times this. Well, negative 5 times 1 gets me negative 5. But then I got this x times this x. All right, exponent rules. X to the first and x to the first. Product of power states that whenever the bases are the same, you add the exponents when you're trying to multiply. So that's what we're going to do. Add the exponents. X to the second. All right? I warned you that those exponents rules are going to come back to you. You got to pay attention and watch them. You got to know them. So product of power, that's what we're using right here. All right, so 2x plus negative 5x squared. As you're going to see a whole bunch of these, so pay attention to them and watch them. Exponent rules. Same thing. All right. Same thing here. The only difference here is that now I've got a negative x. Well, what I really have is a negative 1x. No big deal though. We're going to go through, same thing. Look at this. Oh, click, click, so that I can deal with it. All right. Take this, multiply it times each term inside of those parentheses. Again, sometimes there's going to be 2, sometimes there's going to be 3, sometimes there's going to be 4. Doesn't matter. Take this, multiply it times this. All right. Negative 1 times negative 2. Well, a negative times a negative gets me a positive. So I know that whatever I get right there, that's going to be positive. So it's positive. 1 times 2, 2. And then again, x to the first, x to the first. I'm going to add the exponents, and I got x to the second. Product of power rule. Plus, bring that down. Negative 1x times negative 5, 5x. That's all that's happening here. That 1 times that 5 gets me 5. Negative times a negative gets me positive. I still have that x that's attached to it, and I have it right there. Guys, I'm telling you, we can do this. We can do this. We need practice, but we can do it. We can do it. All right. All right. So now what they've done is they've added a coefficient in front of our variable that we're distributing. But it doesn't really change anything. It's just like what we did right here with the negative 1. But now instead we've got a 5. Same thing though. Take this, multiply it here and here, look through, up, any subtraction turns to addition and you change the sign of the number right behind it. Okay, so click, click. Okay, distribute through, 5x times 8x, 5 times 8, 40x times x, product of power rule, x to the second power. Each one of those has an exponent of 1. Plus 5 times 9, 45, still have my x, and positive times the negative gets me a negative. Now, there's this, okay? There's another way that we could write this, and I should have showed it to you there. I can also write this like this. That's the same thing. That's that sign rule that you got to pay attention to. Those are the same thing. Watch them. And because sometimes they're going to give you this answer, sometimes they're going to give you this answer. A lot of times it's going to be this one. But understand that you can turn this into this and know what's going on. Pay attention. Same thing over here. Guys, again, we're just see practice after practice of this stuff. The more practice we get, the better we're going to do. All right. Negative 10x, parentheses 5 minus 4x, same thing, click, click, take that subtraction, turn it into addition, change the sign of the number behind it. Then you're going to take negative 10x, remember the sign goes with it, and distribute it through. Negative 10x times 5 gets me negative 50x, because all I do is multiply these two, bring it down, the x stays with it. Sign negative times a positive gets me negative. Plus, again, negative 10 times negative 4 gets me a positive 40. X to the first gets me x to the Second, product of power rules. Guys, I'm telling you, you can do this, you just have to know certain things. You gotta know your product of power rules, and you gotta know your sign rules. Distributive property is all about using those things, okay? If you have any questions, let me know.